And when the Twin Towers fell, so much of our city and our country was left in ruins. But in the midst of so much destruction and pain came moments of courage, sacrifice, and survival.
Yeah, Pick 7's Nicole Johnson brings us the story of two Port Authority police officers who were trapped beneath the rubble that day for hours until a Marine came to their rescue.
When the South Tower collapsed, Port Authority officer Will Himeno and Sergeant John McLaughlin were buried alive in wreckage, trapped under concrete and twisted steel. The only thing they had was hope, unsure if help would ever come.
If you had your worst nightmare, multiply it by 1,000,000. That gives you a little bit of insight on how horrific it was down there.
Hours later, a voice broke through the darkness. It was members of the military, including Marine Sergeant Jason Thomas, a veteran who wasn't even on duty that day. But he put on his uniform and rushed to Lower Manhattan, then into the wreckage to search for survivors.
I saw dead bodies just littering the street. People that was in disarray and all needed some sort of help, comfort, and tending to their injuries. I was completely in disarray myself, but I had to snap myself back to reality.
Crawling across a narrow beam surrounded by debris, Thomas continued to inch his way through the unknown.
There was a hole that just was probably like 4 feet in width and smoke pouring out. And that's when I yelled into this hole, "Is there anyone down there that's United States Marines?" And then I got a voice.
What Sergeant Thomas heard beneath the rubble was Himeno telling him that he and McLaughlin were trapped.
I thought for certain that I was just hearing things. The city was so loud with first responder noises and just the sound of crying.
But Sergeant Thomas knew he had to do something, and he had to do it fast. So he, along with other first responders, started digging.
I was just like, let me just go into the hole. When I went to the hole, I ended up losing my footing and fell back into the hole about 12 feet, knocked the wind completely out of myself. I remember just getting to my knees and yelling out for this voice.
And I remember saying, "Please don't leave us." And that's when I heard Jason say, "We're Marines, we're not going to leave you."
I was trying to just let him know and comfort him that I am here and I will not leave you. So I remember just saying to him, "Buddy, I'm not going to leave you at all." And I just continued to dig and make my way towards that voice.
Sergeant Thomas got Himeno first. It was no easy task pulling him out. The entire time, Officer Himeno was thinking about Sergeant McLaughlin, who was trapped deeper under the rubble.
He continued to ask about his partner, John McLaughlin. I just knew that it was going to be much harder to get to his sergeant.
But they did go beyond, deeper into the hole.
They finally got me out at 11 o'clock that night. I came out of the hole. That's the first time I cried that night. Not when the guys died or when I was hurt. It was because I didn't see the towers, and I knew that we failed as police officers, first responders. We just couldn't get everybody out of there.
Sergeant McLaughlin was also freed hours later. Both Thomas and Himeno say they remember thinking about their families during the time of uncertainty. Thomas's wife had just given birth to a baby girl months before the attack, and Himeno's wife was 7 months pregnant at the time. Their remarkable rescue, a story of survival, courage, and unshakable faith, was depicted in the 2006 Oliver Stone film World Trade Center, starring Nicolas Cage as Sergeant McLaughlin. Himeno says McLaughlin is also his hero for having his wits about him during the worst day of their lives.
If it wasn't for him, I really wouldn't be alive, because in the split second when the towers are coming down, he thought quickly enough to think, hey, let me get my team around this freight elevator and hopefully the explosion would go around us, because he thought it was a car bomb. We never knew the buildings were coming down.
McLaughlin could not make our interview, but the men say he shares a bond with them that words cannot describe.
Our bond is a special bond. We talk every year. We keep in touch. He has a beautiful family. We have a beautiful family. And I think the most important lesson here is that out of any tragedy, you have to look for the good. If not, it's just a tragedy.
Brother, I love you for who you are. I had the opportunity to meet his family, and he has such a beautiful family. Both of them do.
Over the years, Sergeant McLaughlin, Himeno, and Sergeant Thomas have stayed in touch, checking in on each other and their families, while their voices remind us that even in our darkest hours, light can show up in different ways through bravery and determination.
My sergeant and I literally were fighting for our lives. I said, Sergeant, what do we do? And he said, Himeno, there is no training for this. This is basically to come down to our will to survive.
As the men reflect on another year since 9/11, they want the next generation to know this.
We need our generation to get off their phones and dial it in to what it means to care about others and what sacrifices the generation before them have made.
The future generations need to learn history, learn all our history, the good and the bad. We're not a perfect nation, but we are the greatest nation on earth.
Nicole Johnson, Pix 11 News.